Hi, I'm Tara Freeman. Today we're going to be talking about prompting and the prompt hierarchy. So what is a prompt? A prompt is assistance that is provided to bring about a response. It is the antecedent because it comes before the behavior. And it's typically used when we're teaching new skills, skills that the client does not yet have that we need to assist them in being successful with. So prompts are very important because one, they increase the likelihood that there'll be a correct response. So they're reducing the number of errors the client is likely to engage in, which is obviously ideal. Second, they also are going to decrease frustration for the learner because obviously if there's a new skill, they don't know how to do it. And if someone is just telling them clap, 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 without prompting, they're eventually going to get very frustrated. They don't know how to do the skill. They don't know what to do. So it really decreases frustration for the learner. And it also can lead to faster acquisition of the skill. You're removing the opportunity to error, basically, if you're using an intrusive prompt. So they're going to learn this skill faster than if you didn't prompt at all. So this is the prompt hierarchy. And there are two kinds of prompting: least to most prompting and most to least. So they're basically just going to go in opposite directions, and you can follow along with the arrows. We are going to start at the most intrusive prompt as if we are using most to least prompting. So we're going to start right here at full physical prompting. So full physical prompting is also known as hand-over-hand prompting. This is where you're basically going to prompt the learner through the entire response. So if you say wave, you're then going to immediately put your hand over the client's hand and have them wave. If you were washing hands and you were using a full physical prompt, you would physically take the client's hands, turn the water on, get the soap, scrub them wet, walk them through the entire thing with your hands, literally over their hands, prompting through everything. The next less intrusive prompt is a partial physical prompt. So this is still going to be a physical or a touch prompt, but it's going to be less intrusive. You're not going to hand over hand. For the example of waving, you may now just have to hold the learner's wrist and they may wave, or maybe their forearm, and they'll complete the response. It's going to be less intrusive than a full physical prompt. The next less intrusive prompt after a partial physical will be a model prompt. This is exactly what it sounds like. You're just going to be modeling or demonstrating the skill for the learner. So in the case of waving, you would say wave while you demonstrated the wave, and then they would engage in the response. If you were going through the wash hands example, you would physically model yourself washing hands to show them exactly what you want them to do. Clearly, model prompts are a way that most of us learn. We didn't just know how to do all these things. When you're out somewhere and you don't know what to do, you can watch others and learn that way. The next less intrusive prompt that we'll use will be a gesture prompt. So gesture prompts are something that is also used all the time in our day-to-day life. You may have said, has anyone seen my phone? And your friend might point to where they last saw it, gesture that way. This may, in a clinical setting, look like you're going through your wash hands target and it's time to get the soap, and the client needs prompting with this step. For a gesture prompt, you're just going to point to the soap. You're going to gesture to it to indicate that's the step that they're on. Next, you'll move to a verbal prompt. And there are two types of verbal prompts. So a full verbal prompt or a partial verbal prompt. We're going to start with full because that is the more intrusive prompt, and we are going through as if we're doing most to least prompting. So a full verbal prompt, you're going to say exactly what you want the learner to say. You're going to fill in the whole thing. So if you were running a interverbal fill-in target where you want the learner to fill in a response after you say something, you may say, you wash your hands with, and you want the learner to say soap. So in a full verbal prompt, you're going to say, you wash your hands with soap, and then they're going to repeat soap. When you fade that back to a partial verbal prompt, you are going to only give part of the response. So partial, you're going to give part of the response. So this would look like, you wash your hands with, and they repeat soap and fill in the rest of the response. Next, we're going to use a visual prompt. So visual prompts could be something as simple as writing yourself a note and putting it on the door, saying, don't forget to bring your lunch today. That's you leaving a visual prompt or cue for yourself to remember, hey, grab your lunch. But in a clinical setting, this also may look like a visual next to the sink that shows pictures of each step of washing hands that the learner can reference. Okay, next I move on to this step. It could also look like one picture in an array of images being larger to indicate, okay, that's the correct response. The learner is more drawn to that one, will likely touch that one, and then you can fade back till they're all the same size. And last but not least, we are at independent. So the learner here, you say wash hands, and they go through all of those behaviors and fully wash their hands on their own. So independent, you're not prompting at all, you're giving that direction, and they complete the whole thing independently. So most to least prompting is used for errorless teaching. So Filmingham, Hodgson, Sage, and Ralph define errorless teaching as an approach whereby the task is manipulated to reduce or eliminate errors. And Muller and Polvik, 2007, state that errorless teaching is really just a way to reduce errors, because rarely are learning situations completely free of the chance to make errors, but it does decrease errors. So when teaching a new skill, a lot of times most to least prompting is the ideal way to go. Another option is to add in a time delay. So according to Libby et al., a time delay refers to the amount of time the learner is given to engage in the desired response prior to the teacher issuing a prompt. So this would look like me telling the learner to wash hands and then counting to 3 in my head. And if they haven't started engaging in the behavior yet, I'm going to then go in with a prompt. So it's just another way to help fade these prompts. But yes, this is, so obviously independence is the end goal, but the learner probably just needs some assistance getting there, and that's why prompting is very important.